Distance can be a major barrier to accessing quality healthcare on time. That's where Angel Flight East comes in. Welcome to Takeoff Talk with Angel Flight East, a nonprofit dedicated to providing free flights for children and adults who need medical treatment far from home. We don't know how many people forego medical care because they don't have accessible transportation, and that's what this podcast is here to change. Join passionate AFE staff members Jess Ames and Maddie Beck as they share real-life stories from people who have used AFE services to get the care they need when they need it.
Hey, frequent flyers, and welcome back with another episode of Takeoff Talk. You're here with me, Maddie.
And me, Jess.
And today we have Cathy from Host from Hospitals.
Hello, Cathy.
Cathy, do you want to share with our listeners a little bit about the organization?
Absolutely. Hello. Thank you very much, Jess and Maddie, for inviting me to be here. I love talking about the organization always, and do it with a smile because it's really my heart and soul is into it. It's an organization called Host for Hospitals, which is a local nonprofit started 25 years ago. And we offer lodging and support to patients and or families coming into this area for specialized medical need. So that's a long way of saying it runs like Ronald McDonald House, because people say, oh, it's just like Ronald McDonald House. And it is, but it's out of our volunteer host homes. And we are not just for children. So we will service anybody. It started 25 years ago, and people pay very little to stay at our volunteer host homes. And if there's a hardship, we certainly would work with them as well.
What is your role at the organization?
So I've been outreach coordinator for 7 years, but I've been a host for 15 years. So the beauty about being the outreach coordinator, when I speak to people, I can speak with experience because I was a host long before I was the outreach coordinator. So I have a lot of stories and a lot of experience good and bad, that I can speak to people about.
I don't know if I want to ask you more about your experience as working with the organization or actually helping the organization.
We're all good.
So how did you get involved 15 years ago?
Well, I had seen a blurb, and this is usually what happens. It's something goes into my head, and I'll put it in the back burner till someday. So I was at a different house at the time, and it just wasn't the right timing. But I had heard about the organization. And then when I went to my current church, which is St. Paul's in Chestnut Hill, St. Paul's Episcopal Church in Chestnut Hill, it came back up again. And here, 2 people there were already host for Hospitals. And I started working on the outreach committee at St. Paul's. And Host for Hospitals was one of the outreach recipients, the grant recipients from St. Paul's. In the meantime, I had moved to a different house, a little bit bigger, a little bit more conducive to hosting. And that's where I started, since there were other 2. But all the signs were pointing for me that this was the time for me to do it. So that's how I became a host.
That's pretty cool. It's like it's meant to be.
Yes, that's a God wink.
And I know since you are the outreach person, Maddie and I have definitely had experience sharing tables with you and sharing what you guys do as well. Because I feel like both of our organizations were a little bit of a best kept secret in Montgomery County and the Philadelphia area, which is why we invited you on, just to kind of get the word out and raise awareness about what Host for Hospitals does too.
Right.
Yeah. I know we've even had people on the podcast talk about using Host for Hospitals. I think it was Liam's mom.
I think you're right.
That's great.
Vaguely.
Yeah. No, it's just so cool. It's such a crazy thing to think about, just volunteering to be yes, please come and stay with me, kind stranger.
It is different, and you have to be the right kind of person. It is really easier than you think because our hosts are not responsible for meals or transportation. In fact, you don't even have to be home. Some of our hosts say, I'm going down the shore for 2 weeks, and they want to host while they're gone. They still like the idea of it, but they don't feel comfortable with them being in the house. But over and over, it tends to be the people that are comfortable with opening their home up. They feel as though their home is meant to be shared. So it's people a lot of times that do exchange students, which we do, or a lot of different ideas. But exchange students keep coming up, or host family members a whole lot. Or some people have actually done this for hospitals, but didn't realize that there was an official organization that does it. So they signed up with us. Some people did it just because they were connected with one of the hospitals.
How are the families that are being hosted finding you?
So there's a couple of different ways. In the best scenario, the social workers at the hospital or the medical people at the hospital will refer them to us. They'll say, look, we know of this great organization, and here's the brochure, or here's the connection to that. That's the best scenario because they're the first line of fire. They're the people that are face to face with the patient families. The second could be they find it themselves online. Now we are listed under accommodations. If you go to the hospitals, Penn and CHOP and Shriners, we are listed under the accommodations, but a lot of times people will recognize Ronald McDonald House and they'll recognize the hotel, the Marriott Hotel. And if we get lucky enough for them to come down to our organization and read about it, if we're that lucky, they don't believe that people are really that kind, that people will really let them stay at their house. But that being said, they could find us under accommodations. They could find us by Googling. Some people have just found us by Googling housing in Philadelphia for medical. And then another way could be through other guest patients. So we always encourage our guests to refer other guests to us. And they do a lot of times. That would be like a fourth way of finding out. And another would be for you to tell them, our partnering organizations to tell them about it.
Is there like a financial restriction? Like everybody has to make X amount of dollars, or they have to be in town for X amount of time, or anything like that?
There are no restrictions like that. There's no income restrictions at all. People do perceive it that it would be people of lower income or menial needs or something like that, or for specific medical needs, but we have no requirements on income. I tell people, just if you stay at a hotel for a week, it's a financial hardship period, no matter what income level you're in. So
Forget a week, a night sometimes.
Right. That's funny you say that because I was just in my speech or my presentation, I'm back and it cost somebody a discounted hotel is $87 plus tax and insurance. And it's over $1,000 a week. And I ran into somebody from CHOP last week and she looked at me and she said, oh no, after COVID, we are at the $230 level for one night hotel.
Oh my God.
So
yeah,
that's
$87
insane.
is long gone for the discounted rate for a hotel at University City.
Yeah. No,
So,
I think they would have to offer their firstborn to get 87.
Yes. Yeah. That. I said, well, I'm way back. I have to revamp my presentation on that.
Geez. How many people would you say Host for Hospitals host a year on average?
I would say, I'm not the housing coordinator, so I'm not sure about this, but I would say probably over 1,000 nights, not people, but nights. We do it by nights. So I would say over 1,000 nights per year.
But still, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is there requirements on the housing side, like for like me to say, yes, I have an extra bedroom, list my house is available? What is the requirements on that side of things then?
So when I hear over and over people say, I would like to do it, but I have a dog, or I would like to do it, but the only bedroom I have shares a bathroom with X. That's all acceptable. So the only requirement is that it's a private bedroom. The bedroom has to have a door that closes. They can share a bathroom. Your house can have a dog or a cat or animals, whatever that is. They do share a bathroom at my house with one of my daughters when she's home from college. So the requirement is a bedroom with a closing, a private door that closes.
How does the matching work with host family and families that are coming in that need a house?
So when the guest put an application in online with our housing coordinator usually speak with her as well. They list what the requirements are. They list whether they need minimal stairs, whether they have marginal mobility, or whether they're allergic to pets. So in the application, they put that in. Me as the host or the outreach coordinator, when the hosts come in, I go out to the house myself. And I take my notes on the house. I count how many steps they have. I count how many pets they have. I count whether they have a twin bed or a full bed. People think I'm doing my white glove test on their house, and I'm not. I'm actually I need for our notes to know what they have to offer. Whatever you have is okay, but I need to write it down. At that point, after the guests put their application in, then it goes out to our network, a brief outline of the case goes out to our host network, and they volunteer. And in that, then Barbara will know whether their house is going to be appropriate for that case. But they themselves will know whether the house is appropriate for that case. So the people with dogs will know if the case says allergic to pets, they will not offer for there. Or if it says minimal stairs required and the guest room is on my second or third floor, I know I can't offer for that. So usually they know by the outline of the case whether they can offer for that.
Now, the good part, we need to know the stories, the good and the bad.
Oh, okay. I have funny stories. I have no bad stories, but I have funny stories. So I would say one of the best stories would be last Christmas, a year ago Christmas, I received an email and it said, "It's been a long time since I last wrote you." It said, "Dear Cathy and Joe, it's been a long time since I last wrote you, and I hope you're doing well. I was talking with Carlotta and talking about how blessed we have been in the past by having people like you that shared their houses and friendships with us. I'm hopeful that you still have this email and wish you the best of your family. Must be all grown up by now, with much appreciation and thankfulness." So I read this email and I did not remember who it was. And I had it, fortunately, I save all my emails, the thousands, 10,000s of emails I have. And I went back and I Googled the name, Roberta, his name was, and I had hosted them in 2009. So
Wow.
that's how impactful this was. That's one of my best stories. That's how impactful the program is, that somebody's remembering it 13, 14 years later and talking to their family. They stayed with us. They had one child that was brain injured, and they came into the area for a service on that. And they had two other children with them, and they didn't speak English. The father was the only one that spoke broken English, but the family did not. And they stayed with us probably less than a week. And still 13 years later, they were just sending this email out. So that was my gift. And that was a great story. Probably the funniest stories are, I had one woman stay with me a few years ago, and I would say it was my husband's least favorite one. He had two children with brain injury, which was very sad. And so they were home a lot during the day. They had some services they had to do during the day, but they were here. And I was out working, and she was with the two children all day. And my husband's a school teacher, a high school teacher. So at 3:30, when he gets home, he's ready to cool down. But at 3:30, when an adult got home, she was ready to talk. She needed adult interaction. So
Oh no.
she's not a talker to begin with. And that's certainly not required of the program. But she was ready for adult interaction, complete full face adult interaction. And he was not. And he said, I would go into different rooms and she would just find a way to come into the room and start talking to me. So that was not a bad story at all, but it was one of our funnier stories. Another one, I guess, would have been there was a family from Russia and Ukraine, and they were in their late 20s. They had a child, again, with brain injury, a 1-year-old with brain injury. And in the program they were coming in for, they needed a caregiver with them. And it happened to be the mother-in-law, which was the father's mother. And it was a strange dynamic between the mother-in-law and the daughter-in-law. And they were in for family care for the baby, and the mother was in to dote on her son. He was from Saudi Arabia. They were a multi-blended family, but he was from Saudi Arabia, and they tend to dote on their sons a little more. So that was a very strange dynamic, watching the mother and daughter-in-law interact. So that was another funny story at the house. But there's so many great stories.
I can't even imagine. I don't know. I'm such a social person. I feel like I'd be like, so what you guys gonna do today? Do you want to get lunch? I feel like I'd be like the worst host. They'd be like, please never send me back to that house.
Well, that's the thing. We take the cues. Our hosts have to take the cues from the guests on whether they want to talk or whether they don't. Some are very private and just stay in their room, which is why they need a private room. Just stay in their room most of the time. They're dealing with a lot of issues, and some of them do want to talk and they need to talk about it. Another one at somebody else's house, after her first hosting experience, she sent an email in and she said, I'm not sure how much good I did. They only stayed at my house 2 nights. But when the woman came home from CHOP, she just gave me a big hug and started to cry. She didn't even know what it was, but whatever it was, she got bad news from the hospital. And that in itself was a huge help to the family that came in. And my host appreciated being there, and she didn't know how much she helped, but she really did.
Yeah, I almost feel like it's similar to our pilots. It's just an extra layer of comfort, and especially people coming from another country that have never been here before. It's probably scary coming for your child's medical appointment and you just don't know anything. And just to have an actual home and not a hotel is probably just a small layer of comfort that they wouldn't even think of.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sometimes we have examples of people that have gone to Longwood Gardens and they don't come in to do this entertaining, but sometimes, depending on what program they're in for, whether they have extra time or not, our hosts do take them. Might take them to the Liberty Bell or Longwood Gardens or something, depending on what their time is.
So now are these patients both international and like United States residents?
Yes, they're both. And I don't know, I'm going to say it was probably 60 domestic and maybe 40% international. But yes, it can be both. They just have to be outside of the area where they can commute regularly every day, besides that. So some of the other programs of the hospitality program, hospital hospitality programs locally have requirements that they have to be 45 miles away or a couple other different requirements. We do not require that. We do have guests that come from Lancaster. We do have guests that come from the Poconos. It's just a little too far if they're receiving radiation or treatment daily. It's just too much to commute every day. So they are eligible
Absolutely.
to stay with our program. So we don't have a requirement on the where they are. So we do tend to have domestic and international people, and we do have many international as well.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So now, is there a final thought that you would like to leave our listeners with?
Well, sure. There's lots of ways. I would encourage all of our listeners to go to our website, first of all. Familiarize yourself with the organization, with Hosts for Hospitals. And by seeing its visual, if you go on the website, you see it, you understand it a little bit more. Get us connected with any of your community organizations or the Rotaries. We constantly at Jess and I probably both speak at Rotaries a lot. Community organizations, places of worship, do events, connect us with events. So even if you go to our website and you can't be a host, which is fine, we're always looking for hosts. Try it once. I encourage people, try it once. And then if it's not right for you, if it's not right fit, don't do it again. But you can get on our email list and send out the emails to other people, to your network, to tell other people about it. And a lot of times when those emails go out with the pictures of the patient families, obviously with their acknowledgement, the pictures will go out. The pictures are very impactful. And we get a lot of hosts by that. So we encourage you to go to the website, get on our email list, connect us with your places of worship or community organizations. That would be great to do, even if you can't be a host. And also tell people that we know that work at the hospitals. We all have a network of people, that a handful of people that you could say, I know works at CHOP or Shriners. Tell them about it. It's not just us looking for hosts, it's also looking for us to tell people at the hospitals about the organization, because you don't know how many times I sit at an event and they haven't heard about us. And I'll say, we service you mostly CHOP more than anything. How can you not
You
know?
are preaching to the choir here.
Yeah.
Kathy,
So-
speak in our language.
So even not on the host side, but on the hospital side of it, anybody you know that works at the hospital, please connect them or try to connect them. Also, I would tell them our gala is coming up. I know you are hugely successful on your annual gala. We do not have an annual gala. We are having a 25-year gala next year. And we would love people to connect us for that. If they like our mission, if they like our organization, connect with us on either donating something, an experience or a gift, or helping us on one of the committees for the gala. That'd be great. That's coming up and would be a huge benefit and a way they could help out if they like what they hear about the organization. I also want to say,
We will definitely be at your gala. We love a gala.
Yeah, we love a
that's
good
great.
event.
It's being organized. It got sidestepped by COVID. We were going to do it during COVID and then got sidestepped. So it's next year. And I will say another success of the story. I want to talk about a story that just happened this weekend. 2 people Saturday morning, and sometimes it ebbs and flows, but Saturday morning, we got a call, 2 different calls from women whose husbands were in the hospital, in the local hospitals. We got the calls about 9 o'clock on Saturday morning. One, her husband had a heart attack while he was driving, and he had been in the hospital Right. He had been in the hospital. She was from Jersey, one of the Jersey Shores, and he had been in the hospital. Now he was getting transferred to Moss Rehab. So she contacted us Saturday morning and needed lodging for 1 to 3 weeks that night, starting that night. And then a second woman called, similar timing, from Lancaster, and her husband was having liver and bowel issues, which are not covered by the other. Some of these things are not covered by the other hospitality homes like Gift of Life and Ronald McDonald House. They weren't under 21. They were not coming in for an organ transplant. They did not have cancer. So they had bowel and liver issues. She was coming in the next day on Sunday, which was yesterday, for 1 to 3 weeks, possibly longer. Within an hour, we put it out to the network, and we had 15 offers. By 12 o'clock, we had 15 offers of our networks for these two. So they were placed immediately. So we have a huge success. And if people are on our email list, they could see these coming out and send it out and help us just like that.
That's amazing.
It is.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all about Host for Hospitals. And we hope the word gets out to everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you for making people aware. And thank you for what you do. We want to partner more. I know Jess and I sat at an event at the Shriners 7 years ago. And why would we not partner? People all like one-stop shopping. We can do the transportation and the lodging together, and they take that off of the people's plates, the worry on.
Yeah. It just makes sense for us to partner. So we love it.
Yeah, sign us up.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Bye, Cathy.
Have a great day. Bye.
That's it for today's episode of Takeoff Talk with Angel Flight East. If you want to learn more about our services, please visit our website at www.angelflighteast.org or call our office at 215-358-1900. Join us in our mission. If you're a healthcare worker or a patient in need of air travel and flight services, AFE is here for you. Subscribe to the show so you can hear more stories. Join us again next week right here on Takeoff Talk.